Today we'll be going over problem 2 of the CodeChef May long challenge isolation centers. So in this problem, there are 26 different types of viruses, known as Arona, Barona, Corona, all the way to Zerona, for each of the letters in the alphabet. You're given a string S with length n, and each letter represents a person with that type of virus. So for example, in the string A, B, C, D, A, B, C, we have 2 people with coronavirus, 2 people with baronavirus, 2 people with coronavirus, and 1 person with coronavirus. So there are C isolation centers, and there are Q queries. So in each query which you want to solve, there are C isolation centers. And each isolation center has infinite capacity, but with the restriction that 2 people infected with the same virus cannot stay in the same isolation center. Therefore, if I have one isolation center, and I put someone with coronavirus, coronavirus, and coronavirus, then I cannot put another person with coronavirus, because then I have 2 people with the same virus, and this is not allowed. So I can essentially put as many people as I want in each isolation center, as long as they're all different. And then there's also something called a pending queue. A pending queue is basically all the people that could not be fit in an isolation center. So we want to find the minimum amount of people left in the pending queue for each query. And each query will give an integer c, which is the number of isolation centers. So the best way to solve this is going back to our example. You want to assume that in each query, so in order to solve this problem, let's go back to our example. You want to basically create an array of integers. An array of size 26 of integers. And you want to set all of the values equal to 0. And the reason why I do this is because you're going to traverse through the string in a for loop. Just go through it. Each time you see an A, you're going to mark the array at position 0, and you're going to increment it by 1. Each time you see a B, you're going to go over to the array at position 1, incremented by 1. And you're going to keep on incrementing it with each position in the array corresponding to one letter of the alphabet. And at the end, if we do this for everything, we would have an integer array like this: 2, 2, 2, 1. Now with this integer array, we want to find the number of queries. So let's say that we have a query where there's one isolation center. In this case, for each of these isolation centers, we want to assume that every single person in the entire array will have a bunch of zeros for F's and G's and so on. So you want to assume that every single person in here will fit inside the isolation center. So we're going to put one of each type in there. So then, by doing so, we'll have one person left for the first 3, 0, -1, -1, and so on. So basically, we're just going to decrement it all by 1, because we're going to put everyone in that one isolation center. And then if we have a second isolation center, we're going to decrement everyone by 1 again, because we're going to put everyone in the isolation center. Even if there is nobody with a virus, we're still going to put them there. Once we're done, let's say we have 2 isolation centers, we're going to go through this once more. We're going to go through it, and we're going to find the number or the sum of this. But the thing is, we are only going to count it if it is a positive integer. For example, with one isolation center, we see that there are 3 ones. Therefore, 3 people will be in the pending queue. And when we go over here, that you see negative 1s and 0s, we will not count this, because what this basically tells us is that all the people were able to get out of the pending queue. However, if there is a positive integer left, it means that someone was in the pending queue. Therefore, we can count this, and we can just go through the array again and sum it. Now let's focus on how we're going to program this. So first, remember we have to create our global variable. We can title this just Corona, of size 26 for each of the letters or types of viruses we have. Next, we're going to have our integer t. I'm going to put into t. Then we're going to go into a for loop for each query. Inside the for loop, we're going to have 2 numbers, length, and queries. then we're going to input into them. From here, we want to go through the entire string, and we want to input into the appropriate values of corona. The for loop goes through the entire string, and in there, in order to input into it, we want to use properties of the ASCII table. What this basically does is that the value of a lowercase a, as shown over here, is marked with the value of 97. So if we take the letter value over here as at position I, and we subtract 97 from it, will essentially give us 0. If we have two a's, say s at I is equal to a b, and we subtract our a, or the value of 97, b is equal to a plus 1, or 98. Subtracting 97 from that gives us 1. So therefore, B would be at position 1, C would be at position 2, D at position 3, and so on. So this is how we can actually input into our corona array over here, by using properties of the ASCII table. From here, we can go through all of our queries. Here, for each query, we can have an integer q, which will just be the amount of isolation centers, and our total equal to 0. Which would be the total amount of people in the pending queue. For each query, we want to go through the entire corona array which we have. And for each of these values, we're going to set corona at position k, and we're going to subtract q minus equals q. And the reason we're doing this is because, again, we want to assume that we're putting every single person, no matter if they have the virus or not, into the isolation center. So we're going to subtract q. Sorry, in the beginning we have to input into q, because it is going to be the query. And then we're going to check if corona at position k is greater than 0. Then we want to add it to our total. And the reason, again, why we're checking if it's greater than 0, it means that that person was not able to be fit into an isolation center. Therefore, we want to add them to the pending queue. If it is negative, then that means that we had more than enough space for the people with that type of virus, meaning that we don't essentially need to put it into the pending queue. And then at the end, we want to reset all the positions, all the values of our corona array, so we can just add q back to all of them. And the reason so is because we have multiple queries, so if we change the value in one query, we want to make it back to the original array, so we can go over to the next query and do this entire cycle again. In the end, we can just go towards the end over here. We can print out total for each query, and then at the end, for int k equal to 0, k is less than 26, k plus plus, we are essentially just going to reset the coronavirus array equal to all zeros for the next test case. And then at the end, we can return 0. Submitting this solution to the problem does give us a check mark over here, meaning that it is correct.